This is a training series made in collaboration with Saucony. I'm going to be testing, training, and racing in their all-new endorphin range for my Noosa marathon build. Saucony has a long history of producing high-quality footwear for runners. Their shoes are recognized for their comfort, durability, and performance, making them a favorite amongst serious runners and athletes. You can find their all-new endorphin range out now on their website. So big shout out to Saucony for jumping on board the Chasing 245 series. Sup guys, welcome back to another episode of the Noosa Marathon Training Diaries. An episode where I have more of a chill podcast vibe, conversation, talking all things Noosa Marathon training block. Coming off the back of the biggest week I've ever done, this week came with some new challenges and with slightly less mileage. So we came in at 104 kgs in total for the week, and it made for a pretty interesting week. Firstly, what made the week interesting was my Garmin decided to die. It passed away. Rest in peace. So that means that I had no Garmin to rely on for paces, distance, well, really anything for all of the runs that I did this week. So this meant that for all of my runs, I pretty much had to run off feel and prescribed efforts. So if I was prescribed half marathon pace or threshold pace, I pretty much just had to do some guesswork and then really just listen to my body and try to tune in and dial in what I thought was 5K, 10K, half marathon, marathon effort, which was pretty fun, and it was kind of refreshing, but it was also really annoying, just kind of having the what ifs the whole time. But in saying that, I can't wait to receive a package that's coming in the mail this week. It's a brand new watch, pod, and heart rate monitor. And that's all I'm going to say on that topic. So without further ado, let's get into the week that was the 25th to the 31st of April. This video series is proudly sponsored by Aid Station. They are supporting me with all of my fueling and hydration needs for the Noosa Marathon training block. I've been using Aid Station to stock up on gels, electrolytes, and triple magnesium since the Melbourne Marathon build, and I haven't looked back since. They are offering my viewers 10% off with the code DAVES10, which you can find in the description of this video. Back to you, Dave. So, let's get Strava up. So just to set the scene for all of the workouts and all of the runs that I did this week, because I didn't have a watch, I had no GPS, but what I did have was Strava on my phone. And I don't know about you guys, or if you've ever used Strava on your phone, you just go into the record setting and it comes up here, GPS is set, and then you press start. So if you press start, this is all of the metrics that it's going to show you. Time at the top, average pace, your kilometer split, and then the total distance ran. And then all you can do is stop, resume, or finish. So it doesn't give you like your rolling pace. It just gives you the overall pace for that kilometer, which is fine if you're doing like kilometer reps, like all your splits are perfect kilometers. But if you're doing anything in between that, like 500 meter reps, 1 minute reps, it makes it nearly impossible to like know or work out how fast you're going at that given time. I try my best throughout the week. But yeah, I'll just sort of run you through each day and the little challenges that came with not having a watch and using Strava on my phone as we go. But yeah, it's pretty funny. Yeah, that brings me to Monday. Well, hold on, let me finish this run first. Should I save the activity? I'll save the activity. Loading. There we go, lunchtime run, 0 time, 0 minutes. Beautiful. Okay, so let me scroll back to Monday. So, regarding my watch breaking, it actually broke completely on Tuesday's session, which I'll get into when we get to Tuesday. But on Monday, at this stage, it was still currently working. I had my 40-minute recovery run. This was the day after that big boy Sunday long run. If you don't know what run I'm talking about, it was a 34 kilometer run in total, and it had 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 kilometer efforts, all done at goal marathon pace, and then there was 1K floats in between. So it was a big boy, it was a massive session, and I was feeling pretty sore the next day. It was definitely a recovery run. I ran 7.78 kilometers, 5:07 pace, and this was just shy of 40 minutes. I also had no idea what my pace was, and it says here that watch had no idea. It said I was running a 4-minute pace with 180 beats per minute at times. So I think this was where the watch was almost on its way out. My heart rate was just all over the place. I pretty much had to run this off feel, and I don't even know if this was correct, to be honest. But I ran about 8 Ks in total for that day, and I wore the On Cloud Eclipse. Then we come into Tuesday, which usually is my first session of the week, but it says here that I've done an easy 60 minutes, which is usually my Wednesday session. So we came to Tuesday, and I've written in the description here, was meant to be my usual Tuesday session, but stomachache said otherwise, so opted for tomorrow's easy 60, and we'll try the session again tomorrow. So for some reason I had like horrible stomach cramps, and I was super bloated on Tuesday, and probably too much information, but I was chatting to Michaela, my girlfriend, who is a nutritionist, and we were trying to figure out what was different, what did I eat that made me feel so upset. And we put it down to, we had a stir fry with lots of green beans, and they were a bit crunchy, and there was a hell of a lot of them. And Michaela reckons that eating a lot of green beans on the raw side can give you stomach cramps and like make you bloated and gassy and the rest. So put it down to that, because that's what I had for lunch that day. I actually ran out on the run. I had the workout planned into my watch and tried to do it. Decided during the warm-up, I'll just turn this into my easy 60. So I ran 12 Ks, 5-minute pace, 1 hour. That was with the On Cloud Eclipse again. Yeah, ran with stomach pains the entire time. Wasn't the best, but got it done. Ran at 4 in the afternoon, and it was pissing down rain. So at least it wasn't hot. Got to take the wins when you can. Then we come on to Wednesday, which is my first session of the week. So what we had for the session, we had 8 by 4 minutes with 60 seconds standing recovery in between. We did a 15-minute warm-up and 15-minute cool down, as always. This was probably one of the most interesting sessions that I've ever ran, and this is why. So let me rewind it all the way back to early Wednesday morning, when I took my watch off charge. It was at 100%, and I went to work. Every half an hour, I would look down at my watch, and I'd lost 25% battery. So I wasn't looking good for the old Garmin. And then by the time I finished work, my Garmin was dead. So I thought, well, this obviously isn't ideal for my session. I had planned to do the session as soon as I finished work, so around 11 a.m. in the morning. So I quickly charged my watch up to about 70% before I left. And I had the workout programmed in my watch, and it was going to run me through it. And I was just praying that it was going to last long enough for the session. Long story short, the watch went dead just as the warm-up finished. So the workout was as follows: 8 rounds of 4 minutes done at half marathon pace, well, effort, with 60 seconds standing recovery in between. I was left with a choice to either run easy again or count to 60 seconds in my head repeatedly until I'd finish the session, which I decided to do the latter. So I decided to count to 60 4 times for each 4-minute rep, and then I would count to 60 again for my 60 seconds rest. I don't know if you guys have ever had to do this, but it was hilarious. The whole time I was thinking, I can't believe I'm actually doing this. This is dedication at its finest, or stupidity. And obviously I didn't have my watch to use Strava at this stage. I didn't have my phone to use Strava at this stage. So yeah, it was just an absolutely hilarious session. I had no idea how fast I was running for the 4-minute efforts. All I knew is that I was running for what I thought was 4 minutes, because I was trying to count in perfect seconds as I could. But I've written here in the description, my Garmin has officially died, made it through a 15-minute warm-up with no GPS. Oh yeah, the GPS didn't work as well. I just kind of knew what 3Ks was. It said I was running 12-minute pace, and that I'd only ran 1 kilometer in distance for the warm-up, so I knew shit was going to go wrong from there. Then it died, so I counted to 60 seconds in my head 40 times over. Wouldn't recommend it, but I think it's a testament to my dedication for not only my fitness, but also this YouTube channel. I think I ran 16 Ks in total, around an hour and 10, and I wrote, it just kind of worked out as a manual upload that it was 4:23 pace. I genuinely have no idea what I ran, but I think it was from adding up the time and my usual paces, it's usually around a 16-minute session. So that's what I just went for with that session. So moving on, next one we have Thursday, which is my easy 80 minutes. Did this one without the watch. This time I carried my phone with me and ran it through Strava. I wrote here, feels like I've gone back to the Stone Age. It was honestly pretty nice. Also, I'm feeling reasonably sore from yesterday's session. Maybe the half marathon effort was a bit quick. Again, I had no idea what pace I was doing. I was just running off what I thought was half marathon effort for those 4 minutes reps. I kind of just didn't want to undercut myself. So I probably ran a little bit harder than I should have. And by the way, it was been pouring rain once again. So yeah, I pulled up a little bit sore from that. Oh, I've got here 80 minutes, 4:55 pace, and I ran just over 16K for my Thursday. And I wore the On Cloud Eclipse for that one. So just a pretty standard Thursday for that one. And then we come to Friday, which is my second session for the week. I actually filmed a YouTube video, which is also live, that I posted 3 days ago. Will be 4 days after watching this. So if you want to see the video version of that, where I run through the whole session, I go down to the track, you can pause this video, go back and watch that previous one, give it a like, comment down below, and then report back to this video. But for the session, we had 4 rounds of 1 minute, 2 minute, 1 minute. These 1 minute, 2 minute, 1 minutes were prescribed to be done between 5K and 10K efforts. Again, I had no idea what pace I was actually running, so it was all basically off feel. I feel like I did pretty well on this one. It was probably a bit of an easier session as well. It was 1 hour in duration, 12 Ks. The pace I was trying to dial in for these efforts was around that 3:30 pace, so around my 10K pace. But again, had no idea what I was doing. I was just holding the phone and holding Strava, letting it run through. Again, it only tells me my average pace for the whole kilometer. It doesn't tell me my rolling pace, so had no idea what the hell was going on. But I feel like it ended up being a pretty good session. I wore the Brooks Hyperion Elite 4s for this one. These are pretty much my go-to track shoes. One, because I don't mind getting them blue, and 2, they're pretty good. I like the way they feel on the track. So it was 1 minute recoveries between the efforts, and then it was 2 minutes recovery between the sets. 4 sets through, and that was us done. Cool, then we move on. We're moving on to Saturday. So this is where I do my easy run, jogging around with the boys at Run Club. This one was 9Ks easy, 5 minute pace, 46 minutes in duration. So super chill, more of a recovery day after that Friday session. I did note here that I was feeling pretty sore. I think it was because I swapped my Tuesday and Wednesday around. So the last couple of days went 16K on the Wednesday, where I probably went too hard. Then Thursday was 80 minutes, so decent long run, or decently long easy run. And then Friday was a session, and then we went to Saturday for that day. So it was kind of back-to-backs sessions and longer runs that I think built a bit of fatigue in the legs, and they were feeling a little bit heavy on this day. That's why I kept it nice and easy and just ran around that 9K. Then we come to the Sunday longy, the big boy session of the week. And again, probably the whole reason you guys are still sticking around for this training diary. So for the session we had prescribed 29K, and including in that, we had 4, 3, 2, 1K, all done at goal marathon pace with 1K floats in between. So pretty much a smaller version of the session that I did last week. The week before, I did the 6K, 5K marathon effort thrown in as well. This one is pretty much the same minus those, and just with a longer warm up. So I had a 15K easy warm up, then we went into those intervals, and then it was a 2K cool down. So this was meant to be 29K in total. I ended up running 31Ks just because I added a little bit on the warm up, and I added a little bit on the cool down because I was feeling good and I wanted to get a bit of volume in the legs. For the description here, I wrote reps at goal marathon pace, fueled well, felt good, was annoying with the phone, happy Easter. So this was done on Easter Sunday. So for the session, I actually borrowed my girlfriend's old Apple Watch. So I wanted to have Strava on my phone and an Apple Watch running at the same time. So I wanted, theoretically, I was to have the Apple Watch tell me what rolling pace I was doing, and then the Strava to just be recorded on my phone. So because all of the reps were 1Ks, theoretically, it should all just work out on the Strava, but I wouldn't know my rolling pace. So I had the Apple Watch on, hoping that I could have my rolling pace and then I could dial in those marathon effort reps. But it's an old Apple Watch, and about 3Ks in, I realized it was on the piss and it wasn't showing proper time, or distance was a little bit out. So it got to the end of my 15K warm-up and I realized that they were 600 meters out. So I was already into my 16th K on Strava, which would have been my first kilometer of my first 4K interval done at marathon pace. So I decided to just jog the rest of the kilometer and then start on the next K. So that's why my warm-up was 16K instead of 15K, because I just had that little mishap. And when I was using the Apple Watch, it was very slow to get rolling, to get like a correct rolling pace. So it would take like 1.5 kilometers or 2Ks to actually dial in the pace. So the first 2Ks of my 4K rep it just said I was running like 440s, but then it would slowly recorrect and it would dial in, and eventually it would show that I was running 355. And what ended up happening was I ended up just kind of really dialing in that pace for those reps. My first 4K reps were 352, 352, 356, 352. So I managed to dial it in pretty well for that one. And all of these reps, in between all these reps, I had 1K floats between the 4K, 3K, 2K, 1K. These 1K floats, I really just decided to try to recover as best I could. And that was when I was deciding to get fueling in. The goal was to have 50 grams of carbs an hour. I filled up an aid station bottle full of carbs and electrolytes that I was sipping on all of my easy 1 kilometer jogs in between reps. And I ended up having a Morton Gel 160 before I started all of the reps, and I had another Morton Gel 160 after my 3K rep. So overall, in total, I ended up having around 120 grams of carbs, and that ended up being pretty spot on. I felt pretty well fueled, which I'll get to in a sec. But ran that first 1K easy at 446, and then we got into my next 3K rep. So 3K rep went 352, 356, 354. So dialed that in once again. At this stage, it was beginning to not feel easy, but I think I really know what to expect fatigue-wise when I'm this deep into a marathon session and I'm running at marathon pace. Like, it's not feeling, I guess it's feeling a little bit easier, but I'm just more familiar with the feeling of marathon pace now. Also, I ran the 15K warm-up in the On Cloud Eclipse, and then I changed to the Endorphin Speed 4s. So I decided not to wear the Elites for this session just because it was a little bit less volume at marathon pace than the previous week. And I also don't want to just wear my Elites every single Sunday long run and put too many Ks on them, because I want them to feel as fresh and as poppy as I can when it comes to the Noosa Marathon. So I wore the Endorphin Speed 4s. Obviously, they were lacking the carbon plate and lacking that pop and the responsiveness, but I think I ran pretty well considering I was wearing non-plated shoes, and the reps felt harder, of course, but they still felt reasonably good. So next easy jog was done at 452, so a little bit slower, getting fueling in, got a gel in as well. And then for the 2K rep, I ran 354, 354. The last easy kilometer was at 446. And then we came to my last 1 kilometer rep, which is 354. So right on sub 245 marathon pace. I then was only prescribed to do a 1K cool down, but I ended up doing 2 just because I had to pick up a bottle that I'd sort of left on the ground and I had to do a loop around, and I was like, I'm just going to finish it off with 31K. So finished off with 31 kilometers in volume, 4:28 pace average for the workout, 2 hours and 18 minutes on the feet, and 133 meters elevation gain. With the reps, I was doing it on Buckley Road, a road near my house, and the way the road would start is it would be a little downhill, and then it would go up and then down. And so with the reps, for example, the 4K rep, I would go out 2Ks, back 2Ks. So that way I was starting and finishing at the same spot every single time, and I could leave a bottle full of fuel just at the end there so that I could pick up on my easy jog, sip on it, and then put it back down to start my next rep. So that meant I was going up and down these rolling hills the entire time. So it was never just a nice flat stretch until the final rep of 1K, when I just hit the same 1K. I just hit the one direction. It was really good in that regard that I wasn't just smashing out marathon reps on a super flat road. It was a little bit undulating with some rolling hills, which I feel built some ticker and some confidence in me. Noosa is a very flat event. There is some little bridges that go up and down, but apart from that, it's reasonably flat. So I think doing those little undulating hills, rolling hills, is only gonna make me more prepared for those bridges come the Noosa Marathon. That is my week of training done for last week. Hope you enjoyed that little segment. What we're gonna get into now, of course, we've got the Q&A that we do at the end of all of the training series videos. So if you're new to the channel, I put an Instagram story up on a Sunday, and people will comment in questions that they want me to answer at the end of the training series episodes. You can also comment down below any questions that you want me to answer in the next week's episode. So let's get into those questions right now. All right, first question. Do you follow a weights program as well? If so, what does that look like? I technically don't follow any weight training or strength training program. I've just been in the gym industry, or the strength training industry for the last 8 years. So I've built a bit of knowledge around strength training and how to program that sort of thing. I kind of have it all written up here. The way that my split will work in the gym is I try to get there twice a week. One time a week, I'll do an upper body focused session, and then once a week, I'll do a lower body focused session. It's pretty much arms and legs. Deep into marathon prep, that may reduce to one full body day. It really just depends on the week, but I do try to get there and do legs at least once a week. When I do my leg days, I like to do things like reverse lunges, step ups, front squats, things to strengthen my quads and my glutes. And I also like to do my little glute exercises where I strengthen my glute med, just to keep my ITB in check. And I like to do a few of those little calf raises and all those sorts of things. Basically, it's just more of a maintenance gym workout rather than going there and trying to lift as heavy as I can and bulk up as much as I can, just because it's really not sustainable when you're in marathon training. The one thing that you don't want to do is do a massive leg day. I think I spoke about this a few episodes ago, but doing a massive leg day and then trying to run the next couple of days is just the torture. And you lose quality in sessions and quality in runs if you've got hectic DOMs from going to the gym too hard. So it's about that balancing act for me. Not going too hard on doing legs, but going hard enough that I'm still getting a good benefit and building strength or maintaining strength from that. Cool, moving on. Next question. Is there a pace you find you can feel a noticeable difference when wearing plated shoes? I wouldn't say that there is a noticeable pace that I have to run before I feel the difference in a plated shoe. I think just having a plated shoe, or just wearing a plated shoe in general, you feel the difference just from putting it on and running any pace. A plated shoe will usually push you onto your toes and make you feel like you want to run faster. And a lot of the time, they're not the most comfortable shoe to run slow in. For example, the Endorphin Elites. I found that running slower, running around that 4:45 and above pace, for me personally, it just didn't feel natural. And I actually was getting a blister on the bottom of my foot, just under my toes, because I wore them for a session one day, and that session obviously has an easy run warm up and easy run cool down thrown into the mix, and they just felt terrible on the warm up, felt terrible on the cool down, but they felt really, really good for the reps for the session. So yeah, I wouldn't say that you feel the difference in an overall pace, but they do make you want to run faster, and sometimes they can be a little bit less comfortable to wear. Cool, next question. Would you pick Alpha Fly 3 or Endorphin Elite for the marathon? I had a good think about this question just before. So if I had to choose one for the marathon, it's hard to say which I would rather because I haven't ran a marathon in either. What I have run in the Alpha Fly 3 is I've run a 5-mile race, so an 8-kilometer all-out sprint basically, and they felt amazing. And I did a couple of other runs before I sold them to my friend. And the Endorphin Elites, I've only worn them on a few marathon sessions and one threshold session during the week. I haven't worn them like deep into that 40-kilometer territory where you're getting a few unknowns. If I had to choose one or the other, without getting into too much detail, I think I would choose the Alpha Fly 3 just because I like a bit of a softer shoe, and I felt like I was sinking into the Alpha Fly 3 a little bit more than I do with the Endorphin Elite. Although they're both really, really great shoes, and I think if I wasn't wearing the Endorphin Elite for the Noosa Marathon, I would 100% have kept those Alpha Fly 3s, and those would be my go-tos for the Noosa Marathon. Although I am running a few more marathons this year, and the Alpha Fly 3 is 100% going to be making an appearance. You can bet yourself on that. Cool, and then last question. This one is from Matt Fox. This one's from Coach. Which data metrics do you have showing on your watch when you train? I'm going to be going into pretty good detail about all of this stuff when my new watch arrives, and when it does arrive, you guys will understand why I'm waiting to explain all of this stuff. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to move that question to next week, and then I'll throw it into next week's video. But that is going to conclude the Q&A section of the Training Diaries series, and that's going to conclude the episode. So if you're new to the channel, make sure you subscribe so you don't miss any of my future content. If you have any questions for next week, make sure you comment them down below, or you can reply to my Instagram story on Sunday this weekend coming. Also, what you guys have to look forward to next week is I'm running a 5K race next Saturday. So we'll be talking all about that in the next episode of the training series. And I'll also be bringing out a race day vlog to go with that race as well. So a few really cool, really exciting things coming up for the series. Make sure you like this video so you are supporting the series, and share it with your running buddies. Really helps me out. Thank you so much for watching, guys. I'll see you in the next one. Peace.